I have a quick question for you, a weird, to the core question. I was recently having a conversation with somebody who shall remain nameless, and they were claiming to me that they had no internal monologue. This is a new thing that young people are saying, that there is no voice in their head, that there is no conversation. They don't have a thought process even, and I tried to be like, okay, that can't be possible. We're having a conversation right now and you're priming whatever you're going to say to me in response. And they say, nope, literally everything is no filter. It just happens. I do whatever I feel. Is that real, or are people just making that up? Because I've seen multiple people claim it on the internet. I had a direct conversation with somebody. Could you even imagine a world in which somebody has literally no thought process?
Obviously, I've thought about this before.
Yeah.
Do you think Tarzan had an internal monologue? He's a wee babe when he crashes in an airplane in the jungle.
Yeah.
He's raised by...
Apes.
Well, wait, ape can talk, though.
Yeah, well, I imagine he's just having an internal thought process, but it's just in ape language. Like the only thing that I could imagine is like a total sensory deprivation situation in which you're just a brain in a jar. Does the brain in the jar think? I think the brain in the jar dreams. You know what I mean? I think that even without at any point in its existence there being sensory reality.
You're saying, okay, all right. Why would the brain in the jar be different? And you're saying it's because the brain in the jar wouldn't be able to think about rocks because it had never felt them, seen them, or smelled
never
them,
felt
or
so.
anything.
Yeah. There's no sense because Tarzan's like seeing a thing and he's calculating its nature, and by virtue of that, he has to,
I think the Aristotelian answer to this question is no.
Yeah.
If you're a fully functioning human being, then you can't really have not an internal monologue.
Yeah.
Or you're not like that. That seems right to me. I mean, how do these people explain? Because you said like they're priming their response. I could imagine a person not really doing that.
Yeah.
But
I mean, I think what it is that people are just inculcating themselves with media so much that they think that they don't ever think. You know what I mean?
Because there's always a podcast on.
There's always a podcast. There's always a voice in their head. There's always something that they're kind of using to distract themselves. And so if they're not actively being entertained, they're entertaining themselves. And then by virtue of that, they just never have to put one and one together. And so they don't develop like a disciplined thought process. But I'm basically that. I have a podcast compulsion. I listen to podcasts, constantly. And I still have never tricked myself into thinking I don't think. So...
I was listening to a book on Audible today.
Okay.
When I was doing some yard work.
Does that count as reading?
I think you can find someone claiming to know or to have science that says that your brain reacts similarly.
Okay.
But I don't know.
Okay. The big claim is that if you've listened to a book, you can't claim that you've read it.
I don't think of it the same way. It depends on what I was listening to like a book about legal interpretation.
Okay.
I don't think that it stuck with me the way it would have if I was certainly if I was taking notes or something. I would not, if I were a college student and I were going to be tested on a text, I did try this actually with Dante.
Yeah.
But this was in the early 2000s and all that the library had was an Audible version of maybe a tenth or maybe a quarter of the cantos of just say the Purgatorio, like one of the three.
Yeah.
This was not an effective study method. I wouldn't recommend it like that. I think if you're listening to a novel, though, you can actually get a complete experience that way.
Yeah, I think especially if the prose isn't very dense.
Okay, yeah, I mean, that's probably right. I don't know. I mean, I've listened... I don't want to use a translation as an example. I mean, I've listened to like Dickens and that works.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not exactly dense.
Yeah.
Sometimes you get the interactive, the different people reading, like the Dracula that you can, if you're an Audible subscriber, you can listen to a Dracula where like Tim Curry is somebody, I don't really remember who.
Yeah.
And there's different people playing the different people.
Which, by the way, do you know that Tim Curry, this is a weird aside, Tim Curry's like wheelchair bound?
No.
He's like debilitatingly sick. That's why he hasn't been in anything.
I don't think I have any concept of how old he is. Is he like maybe even close to 80?
I think he's in his 70s. He's debilitatingly ill. And the reason we found out about this was my wife and my mom were hanging out. We were just sitting around talking about movies, and it was like, oh yeah, Tim Curry, what's he up to? And we just look it up. It's like the reason he hasn't been in anything for ages is because he literally can't act. He's like, it's like a what's his name, Marty McFly, Parkinson's situation.
Yeah.
What is the health situation of
Michael J. Fox?
Michael J. Fox? There we go. But what is the health situation of one Tim Curry?
Tim Curry is scrolling down here, 78.
78.
Wow. Yeah.
There you go.
That doesn't shock me because the stuff that I remember him from, he was kind of an, Home Alone 2.
The great Tim Curry roles. Home
Three
Alone
Musketeers.
2. Okay, that's a little higher in esteem. So
I don't think so.
I don't know.
Okay. What do you think has a higher IMDb rating between Home Alone 2 and the Chris O'Donnell Three Musketeers?
Oh, definitely Home Alone 2.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the source text is high. In fact, I'm a huge fan of Alexander Dumas, but I think he's an underrated. Literary figure.
But I think
not that I can read him in his original language, but
I think my favorite Tim Curry performance is probably Clue. I don't know. Have you ever seen Clue?
Yeah, not in a long time. It didn't grab me the way it grabs some people.
Yeah,
I think even that was a favorite in the Grover household when Lauren was growing up.
All right.
More Tim Curry update.
What is up with Tim Curry?
He has used a wheelchair since having a major stroke all the way back in July 2012.
Yeah,
and then he's been doing like voice acting, performing as a singer, and appearing at fan conventions.
Yeah. No,
I think that this Dracula that I consumed that book both way. I was reading it when I could read it, and I was listening like while I was doing other stuff.
Yeah, which Dylan would do this thing when he was studying in college, where he would read and listen at the same time for like further retention. It's like a good focusing
it's interesting.
tactic.
I think I heard George Will say in an interview that he is listening to history books all day, the way you listen to podcasts. But he always buys the book as well.
Yeah, I think that listening to history books is the worst possible way to consume. I hate listening to nonfiction. I can't do nonfiction. I can listen to novels, like you said.
Yeah.
But nonfiction is just the second you tap out, it's over.
You can get really this can happen in novels too, where
yeah.
When you were a kid, did you ever watch a black and white movie and you realize like you can't tell like the two blonde women apart or something?
Yeah.
That would happen to me all there's like you're watching some old Bogart movie or something. And there's like three gangsters and you're like, I don't know which guy's the good guy or the bad guy or whatever. These guys all look.
They all dress the same.
Yeah, they're all wearing suits. They all have the same. If they have the same color hair and it's a black and white, then you're done.
It's even tougher when you're watching multiple Bogart movies because half the cast are the exact same people.
Yes, that's true.
Yeah, or it's even like a trilogy situation with the Clint Eastwood spaghetti westerns. Like characters are literally different people in the same continuity,
but the same. The actor,
Lee Van Cleef is a good guy in the second one. He's the bad guy.
Oh,
in the third
I was going to use an example where the actor plays a similar character the exact same way over and over again. I suppose this would be like Clint Eastwood himself.
Yeah.
And
every Clint Eastwood character.
But when you're reading or if you're trying to listen to a history book, if there are two people in the story with similar last names or something, you can just very easily start to just go, I don't remember who this guy is. Like, what did this guy do?
Have you ever been in the situation where you're talking to somebody about a book and you're like, a name? You know what I mean? Or it's the person who's got the S at the front of their name. It's like, I'm not bothered with the rest of it.
It's kind of like when you're looking for a place in a book and like you really don't remember where it is, but you're pretty confident that it was about 30% down the page where you read it.
Yeah.
And like on the right side. So you just start like going through the book, just like looking there.
Yeah.
Sort of like that.
Sort of like that.
Yeah. I had a question for you before we get into the crime novels.
Okay.
Crime novel rankings.
Crime novel rankings. We're going to rank every crime novel.
Yeah.
With an illustration of some sort. Right. Josh is going to stay up for the next week and a half. He's going to make a little tier list. Animation is going to go right there, ranking every crime novel. But before then...
And then we'll argue over whether the British ones or the American ones are better.
Okay.
What does the DC in DC Comics stand for?
Gosh, District of Columbia?
You don't actually know?
I don't know.
I know this one.
I didn't know. I actually wasn't sure it stood for anything. And the only reason I thought of it is because this, I hope slightly obscure, I have no free advertising, slightly obscure can of
America's most famous soft
sugar national cola brand, not RC, has a Marvel on it. And also no free advertising. It has a different major comic strip. And I've never read any comic strips or anything. I've seen some of these films, but what does the DC stand for?
DC stands for Detective Comics.
Oh yes, I did know that.
And so if you're saying DC Comics, it's
actually
redundant.
It's like
Yes.
ATM machine.
It's
Right.
the ACT test.
Yes. Yeah. No, Detective Comics, because it's like Detective Comics number whatever is when Batman shows up or something. Yes.
I guess there was more detective stuff when they started.
Does that mean they were running it all as one series?
Oh, I don't know. I will.
I'm pretty
Look
sure.
it up.
Yeah, it was just Detective Comics. It was like it was one of those things where you would get 4 different like short serialized
Okay.
things. So
I
you
see.
would get one, and it would have introducing X character, and they would have like 3 panels or something, and they would say
This is not giving anybody a good insight into like the pop culture interests of Andrew Fink.
yeah,
I'm not.
which I'm sure is what people have tuned into this for.
I'm worried about false positives. I don't want people
Yeah.
to start walking up to me and talking to me about comic books.
Well, this is the problem: is that you've opened this door, and that's exactly the type of person who's going to walk up to you now.
And who watches the show, I think.
Yeah, potentially.
Well, I'm very surprised you didn't actually know.
No, we're not actually super focused on comic book culture. Comic book culture kind of became the monoculture, It became passé. It's like everything now. Everything is superhero related. We're on
Yeah.
we're on the other side of it, sort of.
Yeah.
That's gonna it's
Well, for instance,
waxing
I
and
don't
waning-
know. I don't know
waning,
who.
excuse me?
I have no idea who this.
character is.
Yeah.
Let me see if I can even recognize them.
It looks like a mohawk.
That is Captain Marvel.
Oh, it is.
Yeah.
I didn't see that one.
Yeah, no,
But,
nobody
But I
did.
don't think the person looked like that because she was in
Yeah, no,
one
it's
of the big fight ones.
I think it's just an animated. It's a one of the big fight ones, the Infinity War ones.
Yeah, Infinity War or Explosion War or whatever.
I think that's not
What was the other last one?
Explosion War. It was Endgame.
Endgame. Yeah.
Infinity War into Explosion War. No, I think that's just I think based off the comic books, not off the movies.
I think that outfit does appear though in a later.
This guy knows about this stuff.
In one of the recent movies.
Yeah. I think so. I
He's
don't know.
this is
it's
Josh
all
cares
very
about
bad lately.
the superhero movies.
Do you guys know?
Cares is a strong word.
Oh, were you efforting something over there?
What's that?
Were you looking something else up?
Yes, I was. The Detective Comics was a consistent comics, and then Batman appeared in episode 27, and then kind of from then on, it was like a Batman thing. So,
What about Superman?
oh, let me keep scrolling. Hang on.
That's Action Comics.
Come back to me.
That's Action Comics, which I imagine.
Is that just a different thing?
Yeah.
Oh, that's like
Wait.
NFC, AFC, and they joined later.
AC/DC, because that was other than the District of Columbia, that was the other obvious thing to think of as direct current, alternating current.
Oh, yeah.
That's true. That's a possibility. I know that they may have just been owned by the same publisher at the same time. So because it used to be you would go to the store and you would buy like a genre of a thing. It'd be like romance comics, and it would have 6 romance stories inside of one comic and stuff. But pirates.
Well, it's interesting that the detective comic is I didn't know that was the source of the name or of the shortening to DC, but we
are going to be talking about
some detectives.
Some detectives. So before we begin, I want to thank everybody who's listening and watching this show right now. If you're enjoying what you're hearing or going to enjoy whatever Andrew has to say about crime novels, which I'm very excited to hear, feel free to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Follow us on Spotify. Check us out on Patreon, Monomaniacs Pod. Thank you to Zach and Amber Strehle and Joe Papalardo, our 2 largest donors. Andrew.
And longest.
Yes, exactly. I'm going to, I don't know why this has kind of taken on a little bit more of an NPR tone than the show usually
The way
has.
you're talking just now?
Yeah. I feel like that whole cell was a little, and viewers like you. Thank you.
You can get the T-shirt and the VHS concert tape for just $125 donation.
A tote bag if you bring it to 135.
Yeah.
Representative Fink. No, Andrew. What's your monomaniacal obsession? You said you want to talk about crime novels today. What have you prepared for us?
I've been reading crime novels, and I have a ranking.
Plural.
Yeah.
Crime novels.
Right.
So what inspired this?
Reading crime novels?
Yeah.
I don't know. I think I maybe was like looking for a list of funny novels or something. And I know the first one that I read recently in this little run I'm on was Get Shorty by Elmore Leonard. All of the ones I've read recently are Elmore Leonard. And then after I enjoyed reading that one, or actually while I was enjoying it, I ordered several more.
Yeah.
Elmore Leonard detective novels. And I had already read, I'm very sure I had never read any of his crime novels before, but he had a career as a Western writer, maybe back into like the 50s.
Under the same name?
Yeah.
Okay.
The 310 to Yuma is his most famous, I think, Western short
Which, have
story.
you ever seen the original 310 to Yuma?
I don't remember. I don't think I have, though.
Yeah. It's,
I know I've seen the Christian Bale and
yeah.
Australian guy one.
Yeah, Russell Crowe.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a very different movie.
Is it?
Yeah, because in that one there's like a monkey, and Christian Bale doesn't have a leg, and all that stuff,
There's
right?
a monkey?
Yeah, there's like a monkey
Is
in
it like
310 to Yuma.
the Russell Crowe guy's pet or something?
Yeah, somebody. I think it's Christian Bale. He's like a Civil War vet. He doesn't have a leg.
Yeah, but I don't think
there's
he's a monkey. He's got a kid.
There's a monkey in 310 to Yuma. There's got to be. I think.
Oh, Indiana Jones. You're thinking of Indiana Jones.
No, I'm not thinking about Indiana Jones. I'm thinking about 310 to Yuma. No, the original 310 to Yuma though is a super interesting movie. It's
Yeah?
a lot more. It's like a lot of other westerns,
But
older westerns, where it's more of like it's a conundrum. It's a
little morally ambiguous
it's
kind
like,
of thing.
what should I do in this situation? And that's basically
There is
the
a
whole
monkey
movie.
in the movie.
There is a monkey in 310 to Yuma.
Whose pet is it?
I think it's Christian Bale's. Read the
That's-
Wikipedia summary.
Okay, so Crystal the monkey is the actor.
Okay.
She's a female tufted capuchin monkey. She was also in Hangover Part 2.
And I imagine also
And
in
Night
Night at the Museum. I was going to say Night at the
Yes.
Museum.
Wow, that's 1997 to present. That's a great career
Stacked.
for a monkey.
Stacked career for a
Didn't
monkey.
know she was a female. Okay, let me go back to.
So once he figures this out, he'll interrupt. But continue
Come
what
back
you
to
were
me.
She
saying.
was a female.
All right, so tell us more about Elmore.
So you wrote these Western short stories.
Yeah.
In fact, I don't know if he ever wrote a traditional Western as a novel. I don't know. But he started writing crime novels in like the late 60s. And I've now read about 5 of them, if you count listening to one.
I do.
And they're very good. They're very interesting. But like lots of other crime, art dealing with crime, mainly books or TV shows or movies, you do kind of deal with the whole like, why do I, this guy's actually a pretty bad guy.
Yeah.
Should I root for him? That sort of thing.
Does he do a lot of work to make his criminals lovable? Like, does he give them children, or do they have like funny quips?
I don't think a single one of the criminals, because who the bad guy is, you're not usually
Rooting for the bad guy.
You're not usually asked to think that a person who's a bad person is not a pretty bad guy. But there are sort of rakish, bank robbers and things like that
the Thomas Crowns.
Or maybe more like you ever seen Maverick? The
Top Gun Maverick?
No.
Okay. No, I have not seen Maverick.
It's like Mel Gibson as sort of the what was that one that well,
you're describing most Mel Gibson roles.
Yeah,
You're talking about like a rakish.
but like a lot of times he's like a cop, but also just imagine like Mel Gibson playing like the rakish bad guy,
Yeah.
So Maverick, I guess he's actually just a card player. He's not really a criminal. I'm sure he commits some crimes in the course of he definitely defrauds some people, but he
is that your lawyer's perspective on that?
Well, there's a very funny scene in which he is subjected to the ultimate sport.
Oh, yes.
A native chief with whom he's friends dresses him up in a sort of a caricature of native dress and sends him out to be shot at by tourists, and then pays him some of the money that he charges for people to hunt.
It's a living.
The most dangerous game.
To quote dinosaurs in the Flintstones.
Yes.
It's a living. You got to get your bread. In the Flintstones, where they like have the garbage disposal and it like eats trash, and then it just cuts to the dinosaur and it's like, it's a living.
Yes. Yeah. It's kind of yes, but he's not happy about it.
Yeah.
And I don't remember the name of the guy who plays the chief, but you would recognize him, and he's like a very deadpan, funny actor. That movie's actually got a great cast. I mean, I know we're not here to talk about Western films. We're primarily talking about crime novels, but I do recommend that one. Maverick is good. James Garner, Jodie Foster.
Nice.
Alfred Molina. It's a good one. So, you watch these movies or you read these books, and you are enamored of, or you at least are attracted to, in some sense, some of these people. And so you kind of have to think like, should I like this guy? And that's one of the interesting things about it. But, I think the other thing that's interesting about it is when it seems realistic, you kind of have to on the one hand, you have to admire the fact that the guy can write what seems like a very realistic book about people who are very different from him. You know, it's it's sort of an accomplishment. But a lot of famous crime books are, Jack Reacher. These are all crime books, but people don't think of them like that. They think of them as like adventure books or something.
Yeah, thrillers.
Yeah. But I tried to read one. Well, I think I was listening to that one as well. And I did not think that whatever his name is.
Tom Clancy?
No.
Is Reacher a Clancy book?
No, it's an English guy.
Oh, yeah.
I can't think of his name.
I feel like what you're describing right now does describe sort of the military adventure genre as well, though. Like the whole, this person isn't necessarily a soldier, but they're writing about these things with a lot of in-depth.
Oh, that's an interesting.
Nature,
that's an interesting. Yeah, I mean, I suppose it's not uncommon to be writing about things that you don't know that well. I mean, on their top 5 crime books, Prince and the Pauper, I don't think Mark Twain, he wasn't calling on his own experiences.
Yeah.
Number 5, The Prince and the Pauper, crime, fraud, or impersonating a royal, which is probably a subcategory of fraud. It's like a sentencing enhancement of fraud, I would think, at the time.
So actually, quick question about that. Did Twain invent that story archetype?
The Prince and the Pauper?
Yeah.
I've actually wondered that myself, but I don't know the answer to that.
That can't be the case.
It seems like something that would have been,
because I know that nowadays we always refer to it as a Prince and the Pauper story, like in reference to his work. But I've always wondered if there's no way he did.
Would you consider The Parent Trap to be a Prince and the Pauper takeoff?
With the twins?
Yeah.
Who's the prince and who's the pauper?
Well, they're both kind of rich in the movie.
It's just
I'm just asking, does that fit the archetype? I mean, I guess not. But
no, I mean switching places. I guess.
Wait.
I think it's got more in common with like a Freaky Friday than it does with a Prince and a Pauper.
No.
Wait, no, maybe it does.
No, there's like mind-body transformation-y things happening.
Yeah, but okay, but the Prince and the Pauper thing that makes that I haven't read the Twain stories.
Which Freaky Friday are you talking about? I've actually never seen the whole Jamie Lee Curtis one.
I was talking about the Jamie Lee Curtis one.
No, I've only seen the old one.
So when in the Prince and the Pauper,
I mean, I've seen I know that there's a rock band in the new one.
Is it a mutual decision that they make, or does the Pauper take over for the? Because that's a whole nother element that would be in Parent Trap.
It's been a really long time since I read it. It is either a mutual thing, or I think it might be more that the prince sort of pushes it on the,
so that they can escape from their responsibilities.
Maybe,
yeah.
Or I guess I'm not sure. That's what happens. Isn't that what happens in the Narnia, in The Horse and His Boy? Where they're actually twins. Yeah, and it's the prince likes the idea that he can run around, right?
This is also a theme in a lot of Shakespeare too.
Yes.
This note here cites Comedy of Errors and Twelfth Night, and there's a lot of folk tales that have that kind of Prince and the Pauper,
which is a very a very Twain thing to do.
Yes,
is to
distill and steal.
Yeah. Well, there's okay. Now that you say that, if he was referring to Shakespeare, it's probably obvious if you know that and you read it again.
Yeah,
because that's how
I would assume so.
The other one.
Also, the Jack Reacher was written by Lee Child.
Yeah. So I try to listen to some of it, and he's got these patterns of writing. Like he keeps having, I don't remember if it's first person narrative or not, but you're getting Reacher's perspective.
Yeah.
And he keeps saying about this woman who's a police officer in the first one, something like, "This was a good looking woman," and it's like over and over again. And I stopped after a chapter or two.
Yeah.
And I liked the TV show, or at least the TV show was easy to watch and fun to watch 2 episodes a night of, or whatever.
Isn't the whole point of watching the show just watching him just go from place to place, see a guy doing something bad, and then just way out of proportion, just beat the crap out of him.
His head in.
It's all the clips I see of that show is him being like, "This guy kicked his dog," and I'm like, now I'm gonna turn him into mincemeat or something.
That's a plot point.
Actually, what I'll say is that the bad guys are. It is what's implausible about those. Well, based on the TV series, the first 2 seasons, what's implausible about those stories, is like not just the depth of depravity, but like the depth of depravity and the like they're getting away with itness of it. Like we're in a little town in Georgia and there's like 2 cops here and it's being run by this crooked business that's doing a bad crime to not spoil things. And they will stop at nothing. Like they'll steal children and
it's very heavy-handed.
Yeah, and you're just like the Georgia State Police can't be called.
Yeah, exactly.
Like there's like one crooked FBI.
This
agent.
goes
Like,
all the way up.
Like this
Andrew.
goes
This goes all the way
It's
up.
like there's
It
this
does though.
one
In the show, it goes all the way up.
it goes all the way up to like the mayor of this little tiny town.
Yeah.
And so you're watching this, you're like, all right, there's one crooked FBI agent, and like these people all have cell phones. Like they can call the hundreds and hundreds of other policemen in the state of Georgia.
So the only thing that I would say is that now well documented, though many of the documents are sealed because somebody very important was governor of the state at the time, Arkansas, in the cartels.
Okay.
So there was a Tom Cruise movie about this. It's like it's all very well documented. It's confirmed.
Is this
I
the
forget what it's
thing,
one.
the Jason Bateman show?
No,
Isn't that about drug dealing?
yeah, it's sort of like
Arkansas?
that, but like this was
I've not
going on
seen that show.
in the late 80s, early 90s. Basically what like multiple municipalities in Arkansas were safe havens for guys who were push piloting drugs from. Oh, there he is.
We have a guest.
We have a guest. Hello. Yeah, you're okay. Just go ahead. You can sit in the wheelie chair if you like. I don't know if that's actually in the camera. Is the wheelie chair in the camera? Okay.
You can go sit on the behind the glass, so to speak.
Yeah, you can sit if you like. But anyway, they were in cahoots with the Arkansas government. They were push piloting drugs, and then local municipalities, so like state police, local police, different towns and stuff, were all pushing the drugs and transitioning it. And so one of the things that broke it open is that this like small town police officer found a crashed plane. One of the planes goes down. 3 teenagers go see the crashed plane. He kills all 3 of them. And then the entire political apparatus of Arkansas prevents the case from ever being solved. And not only like now has there been any closure on it? So I don't know. I mean, maybe Jack Reacher isn't reaching too far.
I don't know anything about what you're talking about.
Yeah.
But that's a lot. Like that is not the conceit of Jack Reacher. The conceit of the Reacher of the first Reacher book is there's all these bad guys in one tiny town.
Yeah.
And they're able to like stop anyone from finding out about them and be very scary to the working policemen in the town.
Yeah.
And they're like calling like their one friend in a different town instead of like calling. I have to believe Georgia has something like a state police, or the county they were in had a sheriff's department.
Yeah.
It's not a real town. So I guess he could play a little fast and loose with the jurisdictional overlaps. But
well, there is also, I think, probably the real itch that it's trying to scratch. And from what I've heard, the itch that the show scratches is the innate vigilanteism of it all. You know what I mean? It's like,
yeah, there is a lot of, right. There's a lot of like relying on essentially natural law justifications for killing whoever you feel like you need to kill.
So that actually is something I wanted to talk about a little bit. Is you were saying like, it's kind of tough for you to know who to root for, or like, should I be on the side of these people who are criminals and stuff? It seems weird to me that, at least I feel like in a lot of media now, you're supposed to kind of be on the side of murderers. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like murder specifically is something where it's like, it's fine. If it's for revenge, it's cool.
Well, yeah, because I mean,
how many people does John Wick have to kill before you say, wow, this guy's like...
This is a dangerous person.
This is a dangerous person.
Society. This is the kind of thing you'd want to discourage.
Yeah.
This is the reason vigilantism is disfavored.
Yeah.
Frowned upon.
Yeah.
Illegal.
I
think one of the ways in which authors or David Chase's do this is by by setting them up in worlds in which everyone is bad. So although actually like The Sopranos, it's been a long time since I watched The Sopranos, but The Sopranos is not really like that. Like in fact, there's very little, if any, like dirty cop element in The Sopranos. So like the FBI guys, you actually always feel like, you don't want like the FBI to find something in Tony's house and then take him away because then the show would be over. But my recollection is that you're always sort of like, these are the good guys. At least that was my feeling.
Yeah.
But you are still kind of like, certainly when there's like a war between a couple of mob bosses in that show or something, you're like, well, I hope that the guys from New Jersey win. That's the sense that that they're trying to get you to get. And then but I think, I mean, I don't have any idea if this is like what David Chase or anybody else involved with that particular series would say, but like, I think they want you to realize like you're rooting for people who are really, just as bad. Or
they go out of their way to make Tony a bad guy in as many ways as humanly possible.
Yeah, like killing family members.
But you root for him the whole time, regardless.
Well,
it's strange.
And I think part of it is like this. In that one, you're sort of being asked to think like maybe Tony's getting better. He's going to therapy. And then I remember after the show was over, there were like these critiques of the, sort of the women who are not actively involved in the business, but more or less know what's going on.
Yeah.
And are in that sense, I don't know if
the mob wives,
the right term. I remember there was a lot of discussion about that after the show kind of ended. So yeah, you're put into this position where you're sort of like choosing it's not even the lesser of two evils, but like the more endearing of two evils or something.
Yeah, I think the pop culture touchstone for the generation after that would be Skylar in Breaking Bad.
Yeah, except that she does directly involve herself.
Yeah, but like everybody hated Skylar so much. Like the cultural zeitgeist, like memes, what people were talking about at school, whatever. It was always like, oh man, I hate Skylar so much. Like,
so even before she had done anything criminal, people were still
like they hate her because she busts Walt's balls about being a criminal. You know what I mean? They're like, wow, can't she just shut up and let Walt be a criminal? It's pretty insane.
Yeah, so she's a harpy, and so you start to root for him in arguments between the two of them.
Yeah, even though
Walt's he's like killing people and is producing extremely addictive illicit drugs. He's complicit in the deaths of children. I'm
pretty sure I saw an interview with Terry Gilliam where he was like, it's one of the biggest regrets they have with the show is like we could not get people to like Skylar no matter how hard we tried.
Terry Gilliam?
Not Terry Gilliam. Oh gosh. Not the director of Time Bandits.
Gilligan. Yeah, Gilligan.
Gilligan. What's his first name? Jim Gilligan? Vince Gilligan. There it is. Vince Gilligan. Yeah. My bad. Terry Gilliam. Yeah. Not the director of Brazil and Time Bandits, which I saw Time Bandits for the first time 2 days ago.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
I've never seen it.
It's not very good.
Oh, that's too bad.
Yeah, no. But that's a conversation for another time. What's number 4 on your list?
We got to pull up the list.
Yeah, pull up the list. Here, let me grab my phone.
I think it may have been Great Expectations.
It might have been Great Expectations, a great crime novel.
Escaping prison.
Yes.
A prison ship.
So.
And then threatening the little boy.
Yes.
To not tell any.
So Great Expectations is a crime novel because the bad guy who escapes the prison ship. So crime occurs. So is that all that's required for something to be a crime novel is for there to be a crime that happens in the novel?
What else?
Yeah, that's true. That's true. So that means most novels would fall under the...
Yeah, I'd say about 85%.
Okay.
Probably 85 to 90%.
And if you're a really litigious lawyer, probably bring it up to like 95%.
The uncharged crimes, crimes that are not important.
Yeah. I mean, if somebody like lies hard enough,
Well, probably only if there's some sort of a financial gain.
Yeah. Isn't that just drama? All drama is crime then? So then this moves us to 3 then, which is Dune.
Yeah.
Because somebody has an illegal water room in their house.
The former lady of the house when they get to Arrakis.
Arrakis? Yeah, they have the room.
See, I knew you know how to say that.
Yeah.
What DC means.
That's embarrassing. So, yeah.
It's one of those words I've only ever read.
Yes, Arrakis. Yeah, you haven't listened to hours of podcasts about it.
Is it or is it not an illegal water room? Am I remembering this wrong?
Well, so it's legal because...
She's the queen
because of the owners of Arrakis, because they've been bequeathed Arrakis. But... the people look down upon it because it's wasteful.
Then we'll go with murder again.
Well, there's plenty of that in Dune. Also, I don't know, the illicit use of controlled substances.
You're talking about the spice?
I don't think it's really illicit.
The spice is a controlled substance.
I think it is controlled. I think illicit is a strong term. Everybody just uses it.
I don't know. But when they drown the worm in that water and drink it, the water of life, that seems like an
animal abuse.
Substance. That's animal abuse. If worms are considered animals.
Well, I mean, I don't. I don't think the people who make the laws on, please say the name of the planet.
Arrakis.
I don't think they know about the worm drowning, so it's probably not against the law there.
Yeah.
It can be a law against God.
Well, then you'd have to ask whether it would be.
Yeah.
There's a lot of treason. That's a crime.
There's a lot of treason
all over the place.
Yeah. And just, murder, plenty of it.
Yeah.
There's a lot of murder.
So this ranks above Great Expectations. Why do you place Dune above Great Expectations on this list?
At the time I was writing it, it's because I thought the crime was more unique.
Okay.
But now you tell me it's just mainly common crimes like murder.
Yeah.
So let's make that 4.
It's okay. So it goes the Prince.
No, let's make it 5. I think.
Oh, okay. So if you had to rank Herbert among the other authors on this list, I think that would make sense. He doesn't really touch the top 10 in my mind. So I don't know.
You're saying, well,
so you would put. What I'm saying is that this list.
The readers of the transcript don't know who the other 2 authors are, but yes, I guess if Twain and Dickens are the first 2, and then we are at Herbert.
Yeah.
Yeah, probably canonically he'd be 3 of 3.
Okay. All right. So next up is Paddington. Great crime novel.
Now, I don't know who wrote this one, and I also think that my information here may be skewed
by the films.
Well, I haven't really watched the movie. I did watch some of one.
So you made this decision based entirely off of clips of the movie.
One of my kids told me that there's the crime of essentially smuggling animals.
Okay.
But I think it's just in the movie. I don't know what it's actually in the book.
All right. So,
and I also don't know who wrote the book. For
this very, very concrete and well-researched list, Paddington at number 2 for animal smuggling may or may not happen. Next up,
it's just topical. It's just in the news,
there we go.
In the zeitgeist.
Paddington's in the news?
No. Well, it was.
It was. Next up, something that's definitely in the news. My Antonia with murder.
Yeah. I think it's the dad of the Shimmer-Da family gets murdered.
Okay. So you earlier critiqued Dune for not having enough unique crimes. What's so unique about this?
If I remember correctly, this murder goes unsolved.
Oh, okay.
Which isn't unique, but it's interesting.
It happens every day.
And that's the kind of gritty crime stuff that people read Willa Cather for.
Yeah.
On a routine basis. I think, if you were to ask a literature professor why they assign Willa Cather, it's usually for the
crime,
realistic crime.
Yeah, the death that comes for the Archbishop.
Well, that one wasn't a crime. He lived a pretty full, happy life and just died. Old, and it was his time.
Yeah, not very dramatic, but
yeah,
a crime novel nevertheless, because a crime does occur in the novel. Now I'm trying to think: are there any, what are some novels that aren't crime novels then?
Well, hold on. Let's pause on Death Comes to the Archbishop.
Yeah.
I don't know the status of the church in Mexico at the time.
Yeah.
But definitely there were some canon crimes, some canon law crimes, big ones by one of the priests who I think was basically married.
So do canonical crimes make something a crime novel?
I would say it depends.
That means every Graham Greene novel's a crime novel?
That sounds right. I've never read it. But
okay.
Yeah, probably.
That would make Brideshead Revisited a crime novel.
I was going to say was probably.
Yeah, a lot of canonical crimes in Waugh novels.
Yeah. I don't think that's what Cather was going for there, though.
Yeah.
But there is, if I recall correctly, a guy getting pushed off a cliff. So yet another murder.
An assault/murder. Does the person die? Actually, this is a unique question for a lawyer. Why don't we start talking? Let's start litigating some crime questions.
It's another one that I listened to. I don't remember that. I think I'm pretty sure that somebody gets, but it may have been a story. I don't think it actually happens.
Yeah.
I don't think it's a present narration. I think it's a story that's told.
So if I have the intent to kill someone and fail.
Are you asking is it a crime?
You're intending to fail?
No. Yes, I intend to fail to murder somebody. No, I intend to murder somebody and I fail, right? But I do commit an act of violence against them in the hope that I would kill them. What do I commit attempted murder in that situation?
Sounds very likely.
Okay. I put it in quotations there because I don't think that's a real crime. No, the not real crime of attempted murder. So no, like why would that be the preference over assault? Because that feels like that'd be a lot harder to prove.
That you had the intent to kill somebody?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, it might be, and so maybe that wouldn't. I mean, that
It would just be up to the prosecutor.
There
At that
could be
point.
a charging decision to make, or but you could also be charged with both because they each contain elements the other doesn't.
Yeah.
So at least I would think so, depending on your jurisdiction. But you could be charged with both, or even if they. I mean, actually, even if they didn't, you could still be charged with both. So. Yeah, you probably would have been charged with both in that case.
So that person pushing that other person off the cliff, that's the crime.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think the person died.
Oh, okay.
But if the person didn't die,
so they got charged
I would
with
expect
successful murder. Is that the official legal definition? You go from attempted to successful.
We just call it murder.
Oh, we just call it murder. Okay.
But I think that's what. If the person did not die, yes, attempted murder would be a very plausible charge in that case, but also assault with intent to do great bodily harm, that kind of thing. And I mean, there are ways to like assault.
That's quite the gradient. Like at what point does assault with the intent to do bodily harm or exceptional body harm, or what was the adjectives that
I say great bodily harm, but different jurisdictions have different.
Great bodily harm into attempted murder? Like what's the line there? Is it just kind of based off speculation off of?
To be clear, they're both very serious crimes.
Yes. I know that. I'm not trying to diminish specifically murder.
It would be
as a crime.
It'd be primarily in that case probably intent, because if you're committing a very serious version of assault, you probably have inflicted the kind of damage that might be evidence of an intent to kill somebody.
Yeah.
But I mean, there are often facts in cases about attempted murder that are extrinsic to the physical violence that indicate intent.
A scornful letter, something written on a mirror with lipstick, that sort of thing.
These things, yeah.
Okay.
Some statement or circumstance, which suggests an intention to
saying something like, "I'm going to kill you,"
to commit the
Okay.
But to commit the unjustified killing of another with malice aforethought.
Yeah. If I was to say, I intend to commit the unjustified killing of another with malice and forethought, if I said that explicitly, would that be like my case was sunk? That'd be over?
There'd still have to be probably some kind of overt action.
Okay.
But I'd say it's not looking good. It's not a good start.
Not a good start. Because not only have I attempted or have committed a crime, but I've also looked up the exact wording.
Yeah, it does make it sound pretty intentional.
Yeah, pretty intentional.
Yeah, if you're using the old common law.
Yeah, I feel like
a precise kind of future use case in mind, or where's this all going, Shad? I'm curious.
For what?
You're wondering why you're so interested.
Why I'm so interested?
Very, very interested in the gradient here.
Well, the thing is it's important for me as a
consumer of crime novels,
consumer of any sort of media.
Tom Sawyer.
Yeah, because I mean he does defraud that guy into paying a fence.
Yeah.
Is that
Several?
What would that be considered actually? What crime is that?
I don't actually.
That's called capitalism. Is what
I don't think he committed. I mean, he said that he was having a great time.
That sounds like slavery to me.
No, if you read the book, you'll acquire an understanding of the difference between slavery and that.
That's true. That is a theme. That is a theme in the book. What I mean though is like, I guess they're not being held against their will. They've been just tricked into doing the labor.
I guess it reminds me.
Is that just in the legal term? Is that just pull it a fast one? Is that the pull it a fast one clause?
Do you remember some pizza commercials of a few years ago in which one national pizza brand sued another for the purpose of making a commercial about how they had sued them for saying that they had better ingredients, better pizza?
Yeah.
And then the defense or the answer to the complaint or something included that they said this is puffery. You can't accuse us of lying or something because we said better ingredients, better pizza. That's just puffery. We're just advertising our wares.
Yeah.
I would say that that's how I would expect Tom Sawyer's lawyer to defend a fraud case there, where he's saying, okay, he doesn't have to literally be having the time of his life in order to say, I'm having the time of my life painting this fence. And actually, he really doesn't say that. He instead just sort of implies that a person sure would be lucky to be painting the fence the way he is.
So this is actually an interesting question. What about somebody who gets a fast one pulled on them? You know what I mean? Like, if you have the intent to pull a fast one on somebody, maybe what the action that they're doing isn't illegal, but it's an action that they do not wish to do.
You mean like when one of my friends got me to trade him a regular G.I. Joe? I don't remember the name of the guy, but he was wearing a red suit.
Yeah.
And I got one for my birthday, like a limited edition, which the same guy was wearing a bright orange suit, like a hunter orange. And he got me to trade he gave me the regular guy and he got the special guy.
In full knowledge that he was pulling a fast one on you.
I don't remember how he got me. He was a couple years older than I was.
That's probably, well, that sounds like he's leveraging his agent experience over you as well.
Is the question like, do I have a cause of action?
Yeah,
now?
do you have a cause of action?
I think it was just a bad deal.
Okay. And like a bad deal is a bad deal. No matter what. Like if you buy something at a flea market, no matter what methods they use to obfuscate its quality from you.
Well, no, that's not necessarily true. I mean, people commit fraud.
Yeah.
Usually, if they haven't made specific warranties and are instead saying this is as is, what are you buying at the flea market? Like a rusty hammer or something? Or what are you buying?
In my mind, those are the only kind of items they have at flea markets.
Yeah.
It's like that, VHSs and the clamshell. You know what I mean? That doesn't work anymore.
Yeah.
Like the Disney Vault re-releases, you got like 101 Dalmatians.
Well, let's say it was a VHS player. I mean, most typically, wouldn't you expect them to be saying like all items sold as is, final sale, that kind of thing?
Yeah.
If they said, if someone said to you, this works, and then you plug it in and it does not work, then you may have some kind of a,
If they say, I'm having the time of my life painting a fence, and you go to paint the fence, you don't have a time of your life.
Yeah. I don't know about that.
This is why I'm not a lawyer.
I think it's probably too vague.
Yeah,
like this works versus like I'm having fun.
Yeah.
And that's not just proof problems. Again, I think that you probably would. I would expect the issues in an exchange like that to be. It'd be difficult to sort of establish that it was the kind of promise that could be actionable if it doesn't come true.
Yeah. No. Understandable. Well,
but I've never seen a case like that litigated.
This is all good research for purposes. I'm curious. You brought a physical crime novel with you
as a visual aid.
As a visual aid. So what did you hope to visualize with the visual aid?
Well, this is in one of the Elmore Leonard books I've been reading.
Nice.
This is the one I'm in now.
What's your impression so far?
This one's called Be Cool. This is a follow-up to Get Shorty, or a sequel to Get Shorty. And the main character there, if you've seen the movie, he's played by John Travolta. He's sort of a cool former sort of mob associate, not a made guy, who was a loan shark in Miami before he went out to California and started making movies. And I like the character. He's a very fun character. And he's got a bit of you kind of have a bit of like he commits some crimes, but everybody else around him is worse, that kind of thing, that comparison deal we were talking about before. But also he's sort of getting out of crime. And so there's a lot of crime happening, but he's not really the guy doing crimes, or to the extent he is, it's against other criminals. So that's kind of the vibe.
Is he incompetent in any way, or is he ultra competent?
Competent is not exactly the right word, but he sort of has this sense like he can figure pretty much anything out, but he more or less does.
Because I feel like another way to get around the making you like a criminal thing is to make them incompetent.
Yeah, oh sure.
Like things work out for him, but like The Good Guys is a good example with Ryan Gosling and Russell Crowe.
I'm aware of it, but I never watched it.
Yeah, it's pretty good, but the whole point is that they're washed up private eyes who use really violent means, but they're also terrible at their jobs. So they're constantly failing, which makes it, makes you kind of root for them. I don't know. That's an option.
There's a Woody Allen movie like 25 years ago called Small Time Crooks. And they do things like, I think they try to tunnel into the store next door to his store or something. And they wind up going the wrong direction. They're like in a different they're in a different basement than they thought or something.
Yeah.
That kind of thing. Yes, that can help you sort of diffuse how or
if you can imagine Don Knotts doing it,
Exactly. In fact, the other one I was thinking of is the old Disney movie No Deposit, No Return. It has an element of the whole kidnap somebody who the rich person doesn't actually want back.
Yeah.
Which that's a feature in an Elmore Leonard novel called The Switch. Maybe that's a spoiler alert. I don't know.
A feature in Elmore, that novel, and then also a feature in The Big Lebowski.
Yes.
Yes.
But she kidnapped herself.
Yes.
And the guy didn't really want her back.
Yes.
That was a double whammy.
And that's why it's just so tragic.
It's a double twist.
It doesn't make any sense, man. The pieces, they're all coming together.
That one is different because that one is no one knows.
Speaking of crime novels, actually, a lot of people don't know, but that movie is just sort of a shot-for-shot parody of noir movies.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It's like, just imagine a noir movie, but it's the dude instead of Humphrey Bogart.
Give me an example then of the John Goodman character. What's his name? Walter, I think, doesn't have a noir analog. I don't think that the big analog is just literally, I think mostly it's from, oh gosh, what's that? The Humphrey Bogart movie where he's an insurance salesman. Not Double Indemnity. I don't know. But I haven't seen a Bogart movie in a really long time.
Or the Maltese Falcon's a good example too. You know how like when he's in the fat man's office and he drinks that, like the alcohol, and he, has a drug trip just in the middle of the Maltese Falcon. There's just like a weird drug trip in the middle of it.
It might have been 20 years since I've seen it. I don't remember.
There's that scene in
maybe longer
in The Big Lebowski where he's at the Playboy Mansion and he drinks he goes like he has the vision where he's the bowling ball.
Oh yeah,
going in between the legs and stuff. That it's kind of like a direct thing.
Yeah, I haven't seen which one is it? The Big Sleep? What'd you say?
No, that was the Maltese Falcon.
Yeah, it's been too long since I've seen it, so I wouldn't unable to make that connection.
Comparison.
But so that's the Get Shorty guy, and then in the other series, other little series that I've read, and I'm trying to think if there's any real. I don't remember if there are any characters who get mentioned in the Get Shorty books and the Switch books, but there is an overlapping character in the Switch and Rum Punch, which is the sequel to the Switch, and another one, the name of which I'm blanking on, but there's a George Clooney and Jennifer Lopez movie about it, and there's a character who's carried over who I believe is played by the same actor, Michael Keaton, in both of the movies. He's not a major character. He's closer to a major character. It's fair to say he is a major character in Rum Punch. He's a minor character in whatever that other movie's called, which I can't think of the name of it. Maybe Lee Hauser can find it.
It does like sort of the internal
like the universe is somewhat consistent. Yeah.
Which is really popular with the really prolific guys for some reason.
Is it?
The guys who love, another thing that's really popular with really prolific authors is selling character likenesses and names in novels.
That probably works out great for them.
You can literally pay guys to just have yourself in novels.
Oh, I know. Okay, now I see what you're saying. I thought you meant like when they sell as a movie or whatever.
No, like you can pay guys. Like usually it's mostly airport fiction dudes. Like the kind of people who come out with like 300-400 page novels a year. Yeah. People you just pay to be in the book.
One of the names.
I could just be Shadrach Strehle, and it would just literally be my name. What's up?
The George Clooney, Jennifer Lopez film was called Out of Sight.
Yeah, Out of Sight. That was pretty good too.
Directed by Steven Soderbergh.
Yeah. And Michael Keaton's in it in a smallish role.
To your point, though, about being able to buy your way into
novels,
a book, yes, a novel. The short film, which is a crime short film that I worked on with Chandler Ride, one of our executive producers gave us like a couple $1,000s, and so we like put him in the movie. His name's in the movie. It's like printed here and there on like books in the background and that kind of thing, and so he's a character.
Did it make him an investor in the film? Or?
Yeah, that's why I kind of
awesome.
I like the idea of patronage a little bit. I kind of like it. I like the idea of you just paying your way into artistic work.
Awesome. Back when like artists had patrons, would they like put a likeness in?
Oh yeah. So if you go to it's really funny actually. You go to a museum and it'll just be like The Passion and some guy.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? Or
Yeah,
the
that's
wedding
a
at
real-
Cana and some dude.
It's a
And
face of a real person.
yeah, and it's just this was an Italian aristocrat.
Speaking of all this noir stuff, I guess the Philadelphia story is not really noir, but
Yeah.
same era, and the Jimmy Stewart character pushes back on being on acquiring a patron or a patroness.
Yeah. I honestly have sort of totally come around on patronage as like the way we should probably be doing art.
I guess it got us some pretty famous stuff.
Oh yeah, like most
Got us a lot of Bach.
Yes, and in my mind, it's way better than like the studio system or etc. It's like if there's one person or a group of people who want to support a guy to make good work, then they should be able to do that, and they should have influence over it.
So
Constraints are good.
in like the 70s, 80s, 90s, actors weren't and aughts maybe actors weren't working like for a studio the way they have been in the old studio system, right?
Yeah.
But they're kind of back to doing that now, right? Adam Sandler signs like $1 billion deal with Netflix to make 8 movies or something.
Yeah.
That's kind of actually a throwback, and it's sort. I mean, particularly since Netflix, we have no idea if these movies are successful or whatever.
Yeah, well, the funny thing about that is that Happy Madison, his production company, is literally just a grift for him to go on vacation.
Oh, okay, that's why they're all set.
Yeah,
in
they're all set in Hawaii. It's because
and
literally he's like, okay, yeah, me, Kevin James,
Chris
Rock, and Rob Schneider are gonna go to Hawaii, and that's literally, and we're gonna shoot a movie, I guess. And they've admitted to this. They just do it. And in my mind, that's a great, like, he's on the other side of his career. He didn't have to make Uncut Gems. I loved Uncut Gems.
Say, people like some of the stuff he's trying to do, right?
Yeah, or The Spaceman. What was that called? Was that called The Spaceman? The movie with him and Paul Dano as like a giant spider.
No idea about that.
Yeah, he plays like a Yugoslavian astronaut who gets trapped in space, and his pregnant wife is back on Earth.
Yeah, it's a Spaceman.
And she's like, "Oh, you've abandoned me." He's like, "Oh, I've abandoned my wife." And then this anthropomorphized tarantula that's like the size of a dog is just on the ship with him, voiced by Paul Dano. And he's like, "I'm going to help you work through all your emotional problems." It's like,
what year was this movie made?
it came out last year. Yeah, it came out this year. Yeah.
I have no zero. Is this another Netflix thing?
I think it's a Netflix movie.
I don't actually have a Netflix.
It might be on Netflix.
Right now.
I don't know, but it's
it is.
That's the sort of thing. Adam Sandler's like that and Huey's Halloween or whatever that movie was called. So
since you mentioned the airport books, I wanted to kind of compare, like, some people think of someone like Tom Clancy as like a really great writer.
Yeah.
And certainly he has figured out like how to do, very effectively write books that people just like really want to read.
Yeah.
Do you know who Bernard Cornwell is?
I think I've heard the name.
His most famous series was the Sharp series about I guess like a Victorian era British soldier.
Oh yeah. I think there was like a really famous show based off of it.
Yeah, I think the show is maybe always called Sharp's Rifles, which is maybe the name of the first book. But the books it's like Sharp's Rifles, Sharp's I don't know, Platoon, Sharp's Tiger is one.
Yeah.
I haven't read these. I tried a couple and it didn't grab me. But I've read all the Last Kingdom books.
Yeah.
Which is now that's probably his most famous because the Netflix series was pretty popular.
And that's all like in the similar vein as to like the Master and Commander stuff, right?
I haven't read that. Who's the author of that?
I don't know the name of the author.
I can think of it if you give me a second. I haven't read those.
He wrote like 25 books.
I think those are regarded as more literary.
Yeah. Than the Sharp books.
Yeah. Or
in the Last Kingdom books.
Last Kingdom books.
Yeah.
But when I had only read the first of the Last Kingdom books, it was not obvious to me that they weren't going to be fairly literary, because there are sort of there's contemplation of kingship and other political questions that are they're mainly in the background, but they're serious things, and then what I came to realize as I continued reading them is that it's generally the same couple of themes that are just gone over and
repeated
over and again. And I don't mean any disrespect to Cornwell. He's very talented, and anybody who can write a coherent 450-page book every year. And he has like a bunch of other series. He's got a shorter King Arthur series that I like, but and that one might have a little more. That might be more like the first Last Kingdom one. I don't know, but that's the whole series.
Well, the beauty of that is a lot of those guys, it's like a whole. I don't know. Every few years they make a new one, I guess, but they have literal compulsions. Most of them, like people interview them, They say like Brandon Sanderson, who's the sort of the guy who does that for
yeah.
fantasy novels, or Dean Koontz is like this
Brand
too,
Sand.
where they're just like, yeah, no, I literally physically have to write 100 pages a day. He's like, I can't, my brain literally won't work otherwise. And, they get good at it just through sheer brute force, which is impressive.
And I don't know if that's Cornwell or not, but I mean, the man's probably written 50 novels.
Yeah.
And he's written at least, I think maybe just one. I think he wrote a serious history of, when I say serious history, I guess a pop history, but I think it was about the Battle of Waterloo, I think. And he has these, like, there's a series, I haven't even read this one or any of it. There's a series about like I want to say it's like a Confederate soldier in the Civil War. He lives in South Carolina. He's from England, but he lives in South Carolina now, I think. So he's an interesting guy. But the point is, like, there are deep things going on there. And then there are also sort of beach books.
Yeah, I think that you can't, this is a classic argument that happens when people talk about media a lot, but you can't put that many words down and not be saying something. It might be something very vapid, but you are, by virtue of telling a story in which certain people succeed and certain people fail.
There's a take in there.
There's a take. There's a value system that they're communicating to you.
Well, and I guess this kind of relates to what I said earlier about how I think Dumas is an underrated figure. So people recognize, well, first of all, these things are his famous books anyway. I don't know if all, but his famous books are both serialized. And by the time he's like mid-career, if I'm not mistaken, he has like essentially ghostwriters producing drafts for him.
Yeah.
And so the Count of Monte Cristo is serialized. That's one explanation of its length.
Yeah, he's doing who's the guy who does that now? Who doesn't write any of his books, or allegedly. He like wrote those political thrillers with the Clintons.
Oh gosh. Primary Colors?
Maybe. I don't know. I'm trying to remember who that.
Wait, the Clintons are the authors or about the Clintons?
They're co-authored with the Clintons.
I don't know about that.
Yeah. Bill Clinton wrote a book with this guy. It's like a presidential drama or whatever.
No idea.
Anyway, keep going.
I don't remember what I was saying.
You were talking about the length of the Count of Monte Cristo.
One explanation of its length is that it's serialized.
Yeah.
But another is that it's like this epic story about revenge. And so everyone recognizes that there are these heavy moral questions about forgiveness, revenge, he's in prison unjustly. There are side plots that also contain like really either distasteful or disturbing or just heartbreaking moral failures.
Yeah, I was actually thinking about specifically because I've read the unabridged version when I was like really young, and it kind of does go into weird, distasteful.
Yeah, there's this
territory.
innkeeper. I don't really remember exactly what these people even do, and I think I even remember thinking like the innkeeper was marginally useful to the story.
Yeah,
maybe a result of the serialization thing, but.
Who is this person? James Patterson. That's what I was going to say. James Patterson.
No idea who that is.
It came to my mind. Oh, we're wrapping it up on an hour? We're coming up on an hour.
Then just to finish the point on my guy Dumas.
Yeah.
So people recognize this about the Count of Monte Cristo. They don't really talk about it as being a high adventure novel, which it is. It's very, it is definitely more work to get through it, but everyone thinks of the Three Musketeers as this great swashbuckling novel, which it absolutely is. One of the most fun books I've ever read. But there are more deeper moral questions involved in that book than people give it credit for. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So there's sort of this interesting, I think people sort of tend to see one or the other as like the dominant feature of Dumas is not thought of as like a beach. But I mean, these things were newspaper columns. It wasn't that different, probably. And
they're also sort of democratized because the authors would adjust the plot.
Oh,
pretty. There's a lot of Hugo did this a lot, based off of letters and impressions that people would make claims.
Like new editions would have different plot points.
Well, no, since it was serialized. I mean, actually, that happened too, where new editions would change endings and stuff. That famously, Crime and Punishment has two endings for that reason.
I was thinking Leaves of Grass.
Yes, that's
Not a novel, but
yes, but
each edition was a different poem, right?
yeah, but like when you serialize
Makes sense,
something,
the
it's like a
poems.
television show or whatnot. People who write for television shows are on Reddit. They see what people are saying and stuff, and that's how it used to be too with novels. When with like Dumas would hear things.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So
Yeah. But Three Musketeers, like it still has actually some related questions about revenge and forgiveness and that kind of thing, but also like what's moral on an individual basis, what's moral in statecraft, things like that. I mean, there's just heavier duty stuff than people maybe notice. And then the last series I wanted to mention in the crime novel, I've read a bunch of the Lincoln Lawyer books.
Oh yeah,
and I don't know if I've ever read any of the Bosch. That's one where the two stories
Harry
exist
Bosch.
in the same universe.
Yeah.
I've watched the Bosch show. I'm not sure if I've read any of the Bosch novels. But that's one where Connolly actually explicitly says that he looks up to Elmore Leonard. But as an artist, Leonard is like not, in my view, Leonard is not in the same category as, no offense to Michael Connolly or Bernard Cornwell or any of these other guys that write these really I've never read any like Clive Cussler, but like all those guys. No offense to them, but Elmore Leonard is, I think, a writer whose talent is like very different from the average person who you would like pick up a book and kind of, read it on the beach for a weekend. You might do that. Actually, you know what? Here, use our visual aid again. One telltale about that is look how skinny this book is. It's not even that big of a book. Mm-hmm. How many pages is this? It's less than 300 pages. Most of those other books are like 400 pages, and you still read it very quickly. But I think it is telling that this guy, who I think is the greater artist, is able to do his work in 60% of the space.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah. Well, we weren't able to do it in 60% of the space because we went over time. So we're going to have to call it there. Thank you for coming on the show.
You're welcome.
It was a real pleasure, as always. Hopefully, do you have time maybe to stick around for the Patreon? Is that a possibility?
Yeah, we can do the Patreon.
Okay, cool. So we're going to move on to the Patreon.
I haven't checked my messages to see what I'm ignoring yet. So.
Yeah, no. I think I got a phone call in the middle of this as well. So we're going to move on to the Patreon. Thank you so much for listening. If you want to hear the rest of this conversation, check us out at Monomaniacs Pod on Patreon. We make podcasts. This is 7 or 8? This is episode 97.
Oh man, I was on episode 100 of Scott's podcast.
There we go. Well, maybe next. Well, we'll have you on maybe in 3 episodes. If you want to come on for a brief appearance, so that you can say you were on episode 100.
Should we talk about the Allman Brothers?
Yeah, we can talk about the Allman Brothers as much as you like. Yeah, Allman Brothers episode 100 for Monomaniacs. But yeah, if you want to hear the rest of the conversation, check us out on Patreon. Thank you so much for listening. Bye bye.
Thanks for having me.
Bye.